Good afternoon, world. It's moments past noon in Waxahachie, Texas, deep in the heart of the Lone Star State. Today is September 17th, 2024, the inaugural show of Grit and Good News. Yee! We are broadcasting live from our palatial downtown second story studio in the shadows of the historic Ellis County Courthouse. I'm your co-host, Jeff Lynch. It is my great pleasure and honor to introduce to you your host, my friend, Scott Brooks.
Thank you,
Scott.
brother. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Everyone on Instagram, Twitch, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. I think that's all of them. We're glad you're here. This is our inaugural show. We're still in our, what you might want to call our soft launch phase, where we haven't promoted the show yet, but we will be in the weeks to come, probably sometime early October. But we are glad you're here. We're glad to be here. This has come as a result of a lot of hard work the past several months. We want to be able to provide for you another element of the Waxahachie Sun Company, which is to bring to you information and content via a talk show that you will be able to call in on. That number is 972
268 9441.
972
268 9441.
I'll memorize that soon.
Scott, if people hear about us and it's soft launch and nobody is really watching us today.
Well, Jonna is.
Hi,
Jonna.
And how do they go back to watch it?
Yeah, so the best and easiest way to do is go to our YouTube channel, the Waxahachie Sun. Grit and Good News will be captured there, and you'll be able to watch it anytime you want to. That's a popular way for many, many people to watch the videos that we've done in the past, and certainly for this one.
WaxahachieSun.com.
The Waxahachie Sun.
At Facebook.
YouTube. No, at YouTube.
At YouTube.
So go to YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube, put in the search field, the Waxahachie Sun, and click on it, and you will see there's hundreds of videos there, but you'll see Grit and Good News. So that's the way you do it. And our purpose here really is to provide you more information in a more maybe entertaining, less structured way. We're going to cover incredible amounts of topics. We're going to just share with you our passion and our zeal for those topics, our opinions. We'll share with you facts and all sorts of things. We have Sammy is our producer and director, so he'll be putting things up on the screen as we go along. And his co-partner is kind of redundant, but his partner is Doug,
our creative genius and marketing guru.
There you go. So we have a lot that this show is going to share with you, and we want to do it in a fun way. So,
any subjects off the board?
No, not really. I mean, I can't think of any.
Profanity.
Auburn fans don't need to think they'll come on here and talk about Auburn football.
Profanity and hatred
and racism. You know, we're not going to deal with all the things you would expect us not to deal with. And for people who call in, if any call, we don't really use a call screener. We may in the future, but right now we won't or don't. And if somebody calls in and it's a little bit squirrely, we will cut them off. But this is really open to everyone. You can comment, we can read your comments right in front of us, so we'll respond to those. We'll have giveaways from time to time, all sorts of things here for you. There you go. Grit and good news. That's our bell to signify that something positive was done or said or shared. So there may be other sounds you hear in the future that do the same, like
Oh
that.
boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy, there's some suspense now.
Yeah. So the way we'll have this set up is that we'll have segments. Jeff is talented in a number of areas that we're going to at least have one or two segments on. Maybe not in every single show, but in most shows. And we'll have fun with those sorts of things. And I think you'll have fun with them as well. We'll have serious topics we discuss, and we'll just go back and forth, and you jump in whenever you want to. So, question I have for you, not question, but I guess the topic is on Sunday, the world, it's never been normal in the past couple of years. It's gotten kind of really abnormal, but it got even more abnormal in a sad sort of way. But we had another attempt on President Trump's life while he's trying to play a golf round. Are you surprised by that? I mean, really, after the first one, realizing the ineptitude of the Secret Service in what appears like to be a setup, are you surprised by it?
Nothing shocks me, and I'm not certain it couldn't happen again. No matter how hard we try to prevent it, there's so many factors to look at that, and we have our issues with the quality of the Secret Service right now, with the staffing of the service, with the leadership of the service. One of the first things that came out, I thought it was a little bit covering your behind type of thing, was to say, well, it wasn't on the schedule. The Secret Service didn't know he was supposed to do this.
Yeah.
And so as a result, we didn't have the level of security that we would have if we knew it. Well, how long does a round of golf take?
About 5 hours, maybe.
Okay. And,
I'm playing 6.
and so he's a 14-minute drive from Mira-Lago, and then you got to go to the clubhouse, and you got to change clothes, and you got to change shoes, and maybe have some breakfast, maybe hit some balls. But my point is, when he went from Mira-Lago, he was with the Secret Service. At that point, the Secret Service knew he's going to play golf.
Right.
Hello, hey office, guess what? Change of plans. The big man's going to the golf course. We need to get more people out here. And how about maybe calling the local police for starters and scanning the perimeter? We've got to treat this like we would always treat it, and we can't use the fact that it wasn't planned as a reason. That's thought one.
Yeah, well, I mean, I agree with all of that. There's a lot being reported, but we know that the guy set up for approximately 12 hours based on his phone records.
Yeah.
He set up in bushes. If you've seen pictures of the golf course, it's along, I guess if it were in Waxahachie, the way it's been described is that the street uh, adjacent to the golf course is like 77 or like
Mhm.
Ferris. So, there's a lot of activity, a lot of things going on there. You can't just walk there and be unnoticed in the middle of the day. You would think this wasn't in the middle of the day. This guy camped in those bushes, which he did it in darkness and was there 12 hours. So it makes sense that somebody would be undetected at that point, but the Secret Service would at least, can they ruffle the bushes and see what is in there? The paparazzi has said that that's often where they go to catch pictures of Trump playing golf. So I guess what is so disturbing is that we're only less than 60 days, almost to the day, 60
Yeah.
days from when Trump was nearly killed the first time. And so here we are. We we can't be this stupid. I mean, I don't know that the Secret Service can be this bad at 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 their job, um, but yet they are. But the more cynical part of me says, okay, this the idea of conspiracy is just growing for me, or collusion, whatever you want to call it. Because you would have to know he's going to be on that hole set up there, and you have to know that you can reach him with a AK-47.
Yeah, and the Secret Service is in the business of doing what it does, regardless of the political affiliation of the person it's guarding. But I'm wondering whether this agency has become dominated by
Politics. Yeah.
democratic leadership, and that they got rid of the last leader, and some say that might have been a diversity hire in the first place. I
Right.
know there was a big push on them trying to have a large number of women. It was a goal to have a large number of women in the department. I've heard it takes a long time to train people and get them up to staff. So I don't doubt that they've got a manpower issue, but the ability to cross work with other departments needs to be utilized. And the other thing that comes into play, and you hate to think of it, but the comments that Donald made about divisiveness being stirred up by liberal left wing people, I think I heard somebody put it this way: it may inspire marginal people to go to great lengths.
Yeah, well, both these characters have been marginal, no doubt, right? I mean, the reports on this guy I read even this morning in our prep, before our prep. This guy lived in North Carolina, and he kept a 1,000-pound horse in his house. So we're not dealing with the most average of people here. We're dealing with somebody who's a bit lunaticish, and also in 2022 went to Ukraine and was trying to bring more guys with him to fight in Ukraine. He lives in Hawaii, or he did, because I suspect he's going to be
A
in
home
the
builder of
yeah,
small
yeah,
homes.
small home builder. He's going to be in the big house for a while, I think. Hey, Sar Zuzar Huzar. I said that all wrong. Sar Huzar. Golly, that's hard to say. But anyway, this guy, we're dealing with fringe people who are, you're right, they're easily provoked, I think. And so this guy's believing he said he voted for Donald Trump in 2016. Here we are 8 years later. He's provoked by whatever element of discourse out there to get an AK-47, camp beside a golf course that he knew Trump was going to be on. Somebody had to tell him that, and he was in the bushes. And had he gotten those shots off, from what I'm told, AK-47 is not going to be that difficult to shoot somebody 300 yards away with an AK-47 and a scope. I also read, and don't know that this is true or verified it, but that he had some plated material in
Ceramic plating,
yeah,
yeah.
something in front of on the fence there. I assume that would be to prevent him from being shot.
As
In
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 he
return,
was ready
he was
for
ready.
a
Yeah,
gun battle.
yeah. So here we are, 60 days from less than 60 days now from the election. We've got the leading candidate. I don't care what these stupid polls say. I'm convinced, and I'm going to continue to say this on this show and in my columns. I am convinced that the silent majority is ready like never before to go into that voting booth and do what it did in 2016. I could be wrong, but that's what I believe. And so here we are. If we had one, we've got two. Nobody's going to be able to convince me that somebody isn't right now, as we're talking, planning on a third attempt between now and
I couldn't
November
agree
8th.
more.
Yeah. So it's sick, and frankly, these politicians that have made a joke of our country somehow have to be held to account. The other thing I'm going to say is that if somebody's successful at either severely injuring Trump or, God forbid, killing him, I think it compels America into a civil war. In some, maybe not in total, but some factions out there. I think the Capitol's at risk to be attacked. If they want to know what an insurrection is, hurt Trump or kill Trump, and then they'll find out what an insurrection is. But I think that's where we're headed if we're not careful.
There are so many guns in so many hands in so many levels. Uh, Civil War would be well armed.
Yeah, yeah, it would be it's a real possibility. I pray we don't get there, and we'll just see. Brandon Beavers, thank you for joining, bud. Thank you for that. Who is Nick Saban? I think you know who Nick Saban is. He's got a laugh emoji. Uh, Somebody sent me a text the other day
Tell
of
me who Brandon Beavers is.
Brandon Beavers is the husband of Missy Beavers, who was
Oh,
married,
gotcha,
and
gotcha.
he's
He
a
sat in these very chairs.
he
Yes.
did, yeah,
Yeah.
not long
Okay.
ago, back in February. But somebody sent me a text the other day that showed Saban being followed by a bunch of people into the stadium when he was going to be the field's named after him now. It's Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium. But somebody sent me a text of that, and it said, "What does this guy think he's the president now?" And I wrote back, I said, "President? We're talking Jesus Jr. here." So he's kind of Jesus Jr.
For
in a good
all
way.
for all
Yeah.
those who think you may get too much Nick Saban and you may get too much Alabama from our man, uh, all I'm going to tell you is this is his newspaper. He started this show. This is his studio, and so you know,
But you'll be proud of me.
I
Hey,
hope you don't turn us off as a result.
no, yeah, please don't. And I won't give you a reason to. It's sort of like when Trump won in 2016. We were one of 5 newspapers to endorse him in America. And when he won, did we do a victory lap? Nope,
No,
we did not do that. And so when we win our 19th this year, I'm just going to say roll tide and be done with it. So you don't see me wearing anything today. So anyway, all people are welcome on this show. Auburn fans, you'll have a short leash.
and
Let's put it
thank
that way.
God for the greatness of college football, and as they say, the pomp and circumstance. I remember in my parents, God rest their souls, latest years, I went up to Minnesota to take them to a Gopher football game. My dad had been a season ticket holder for a long, long time. I'm dealing with two people in two wheelchairs. I had my hands full, but I'm telling you what, when when we drove down Frat Row, I don't want to get misty on you,
Yeah.
but my parents who'd met in college at Syracuse University and continued to be fans of them, but had become huge Gopher fans. The love of those two went back to when they first met.
Yeah,
It was
that's
gorgeous.
it's amazing. I wrote that column, "Magic of Football." That's what football
Yeah.
does. Kennedy writes, "Recom Tech." You're
Right.
pushing it there too. So let's not get a little squirrely. Uh, they're having a bad year anyway, so we don't even at Bama. We don't think of teams in the Big 12. Yeah. So this is the part in our show we will have more than one time in this show where we share with you commercials, ads from our cherished sponsors. We're not going to do that today. We are finalizing deals with a number of sponsors. So when those are ready, we will begin that process. We're not going to overload this show with advertising. It will be kept to, and for an hour show, I think maybe 6 minutes in total. But these will be sponsors that are local, and that we encourage you to patronize and use. We will be very proud of them. They may have scripted commercials. We may just talk about them. Some of them we will use and have used as services and products. We need a quick technical break here. So give us, this is why this is a soft launch. Give us 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, world, and we are still here.
We're starting over.
We are here.
Okay, no. So are we? This is why we're doing a soft launch. Are we? We're not starting over. We're picking back up where we were.
Right. That's why I said good afternoon, world. We are still
Oh,
here.
I'm sorry. I thought you thought we were starting over. I'm sorry. My bad. My
Right.
bad.
Here we go. We are still live.
Yeah.
World. All right. You're up, dude.
Yes. So thank you. Jeff was going to bring us back to the show. We had our Waxahachie Sun. We were live on my personal page and not the Waxahachie Sun, and we flipped that. It should have been the other way around. So we apologize for that little glitch. We are again in our soft launch. This is our first show. Our soft launch. This is why. So we'll probably have another week of this, and then we will be as professional and top notch
As we ever possibly
as
could be.
the Hannity Show or you name it. So I want to talk about this is the segment where we'll talk about the column that I chose to write each week. Now, this is Tuesday, so we really can't talk about tomorrow's column because we don't want people to have the content or the news before our paper's delivered. That's kind of dumb to do that. So we're going to talk just briefly about our column from last week, which has to do with something that I find urgent and passionate about it, and I'm preaching about it, which is a pun, as you will discover. But the Christian passivity,
Yes.
apathy,
Apathy.
has
It's a
led
killing me.
to a number of problems in our country, in our community. That is to say that Christianity is at its lowest point in America since 1955 and falling.
It's no coincidence I was born that year.
Were you? Yeah.
Yes.
So since you were born, Christianity has been on a downward line, and in some cases, some years, like right now, it's precipitous, meaning that it's hit the cliff edge and is going down. And so I say to myself, why is that? Why? And there are reasons why, and we're going to talk a little bit about it. As I mentioned in my column, it's not only is it causing are people becoming adverse to being in a church. I saw a meme the other day that showed uh, a church, people coming in the front door, and it showed a back door of the church, and they just kept walking through, and then they would just go away. So the church, in and of itself, is responsible, in my opinion, for the decline. You might blame it on society, but I blame it on a church that either is passive or apathetic or is so focused on itself that it's forgotten what its mission was, what God told us we are here to do, and that is to lead other people to Him. So here we are in a country that's going to hell in a handbasket in a hurry, and the church is nowhere to be found. Again, for me, it's that quartet of failure in this country, which is the political class, academia, the media class, and the religious class. And the numbers show that. It's not my opinion. The numbers show how troubling society is, and in part because Christianity has been kicked to the curb.
Yeah. And when you say the church, that's to me a funny term because um, Christianity is filled with so many different
Yeah.
churches, but um, there's no bond between denominations, and maybe that's part of the problem. And there's, to a degree, I would say, a competition amongst the denominations to say we've got this pool of Christian people, and we want our share.
Mhm.
And to me, churches have always been, from the inception, a gathering of like-minded people. I mean, the Catholic Church is what I always would consider the first Christian church. And the first real break off, I believe, was in the English church, and the spawning of different religions from then. And that was the beginning of churches competing with each other for the Christianity pool.
Yeah. And that still goes on today. I mean, who can put on the biggest production? I mean, again, pardon the pun, but for God's sake, I mean, church is intended to be a place where the lost can go find God. It's not a place for concerts. It's not a place for, I don't, I mean, I went to a church in Capel, Friendship, no, Fellowship Church, 25,000 people. I went there for a short period of time. And the whole, it was more like a fashion show, and it was more like a concert, and it was more about Hulk Hogan's in the audience today, and we're going to interview him. Well, I don't care about any of that. What I'm looking for as just an average human being is the practical teachings of what this country's been founded on, which are God's principles. We have just in Fort Worth, up the road, Kenneth Copeland, $750 million net worth. That's got, I don't know how many airplanes. He's got a stinking airport on his property, or a runway anyway. That and talks proudly about how many of those planes he has. And I'm thinking, what that's part of why we're in the state we are as a country.
Scott, when I was reading your column, one thing that I kept waiting to see in the next paragraph and never really emerged was much of a discussion about the involvement of the Christian church in the political process, and it seems to me that the evangelical um, and in the whole Christian world used to be a stronger player in politics, and I'm not sure why they have, and maybe it has to do with the divisiveness that's become part of politics, and they don't want that to drift into their religious life, but particularly in the pro-life movement, it seems to me that the abortion supporters and the greatness of the reproduction rights.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I have the right.
Mm-hmm.
I have the right. I don't know. I've looked at the 14th Amendment. I'm not sure where I find that right, but I think there's a stronger coalition of that group, which I wouldn't really call a religious group. I wouldn't really call it, it's certainly a non Christian attitude,
Mm-hmm.
but I think the Christian religions, the Christian people, the Christian groups have fallen away in their vigilance to fight for uh, the right to birth,
Yeah.
and I think uh, that's something that if that doesn't happen, uh, I don't know where this election
Well,
goes.
I do not see any, and I'm talking any pastors at any event in town, and I'm wondering why. Why is that not the case? That's where people are and
Yeah.
go there. Years ago, hadn't been that many years, but a pastor in Colorado took over, was hired to run this, be the head pastor or senior pastor of a big church. And so what he did is that he dressed up like a bum and didn't tell his first service. He dressed up as a bum and sat out in front of his church and just wanted to see how many people of that church would welcome him in. And he said he could count on one hand the number of people. And he walked in after people got seated and church was to begin. He walked in his downtrodden outfit and went up to the podium and laid it on it. I was that I
And
was
was that here in
No, that
Waxahachie?
was in Colorado.
In Colorado,
But
I'm
he
sorry.
said I was that guy that Jesus died for, and nobody here welcomed me to church. That's an example of the problem. What Jesus spent time with people that we wouldn't dare spend time with, and I'm speaking in general as a church. Uh, and we do the opposite. And so I say to
Whatsoever
myself,
you do to the
yeah,
least of my brethren,
that's right. And so
that you do unto me.
I'm just saying, as a principle, as a I think as a fact that the religious class, let me put it that way, rather than saying church, the religious class has a lot to do with society's uh, decline, and no one, and I mean some are, but I'm talking about in general, very few are out there uh, being a warrior, and I guess it's because they're afraid they'll lose parishioners, they'll lose money, they'll lose whatever, but where are they? And we started the Sun as a faith-based company, which is the truth. But and the only way you know that's the truth is because we're willing to say these things and do these things and write about these things and all that. I do not want to stand before God one day and He say, you know what? I gave you the opportunity with all these various platforms to do something good. What did you do? I don't want to sit there and stuck. And so we have to be warriors, but the religious class is part of the problem. So that's what the column was.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, we've got a comment here, OMG, and I'm not sure what it means.
Well, maybe they'll tell us. What does OMG mean?
Oh my God.
But and the last thing about this, the point of my column was I don't think politics is a good place for Christians to be in. Take a call.
Let's take it. Good afternoon. Who do we have here?
Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Can you
who
hear
are
us?
you?
Yes, I can hear you. I wanted to call in. Hi there, this is Douglas calling in. I had a comment about the church situation.
Okay, Douglas,
right.
what do you got?
Well, I just felt like my pastor recently tried to be a warrior for his church, but what happened was that people were just ready to leave. It felt like he was scared to do it. He was walking on eggshells because there's just so many churches. You just leave. It feels like back in the day, there used to be like one church in town. You just had to go to church. But now it feels as though I could just go to a different church on a Tuesday and say, oh, well, I didn't like my pastor.
Yeah.
I was afraid that could be a big part of the answer.
Yeah. I mean, can you hear me, Doug? Can you
I
hear
can
me?
hear you. I can't hear your friend. I can't hear your friend. I can hear you.
Okay. All right. So you're on my Mac, my
Yeah.
mic. I think of the scene in the Bible where Jesus went up to the adulterous woman, who no other religious leader was willing to go up to and talk to. Jesus boldly, confidently went to her to address her problem and to encourage her, and he didn't care about the consequences. And so, there, I think a big part of the problem is that pastors are are concerned, in some cases afraid of the consequence of doing what a warrior is supposed to do. They're going to lose people, and what they don't seem to understand, in my way of thinking, is that they're losing people anyway. Christianity's falling, and so what we're doing is backwards.
Doug, are you getting most of that?
Yeah.
Did you?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
how
good.
I feel too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
thank you for having me on.
Well,
Thank you
thank
for
you for
calling.
calling. Yep. Thank you. Bye bye.
Appreciate it.
So anyway,
Bye now.
thank you. So I'm not suggesting Christians be congressman or the president or whatever, but I do think that people can be involved in politics, hold people accountable, and stop accepting what's going on in this country. Fair enough.
Fair enough.
All right. So he said is a fun little segment we'll have here where Jeff, one of us will pick a topic. The other one won't know really that topic until it's shared right here. But we'll both just give our views of it and hopefully hear what you have to say about the same topic. So it may be some days that I pick the topic and then Jeff hears it on the show and then shares what he thinks. I'll share what I think. It will be some days that Jeff picks the topic. Today I picked the topic, and here's the topic. What happened in Springfield, or what is happening in Springfield, Ohio, which is ironically is a city the same size as Waxahachie, is that I think the number is close to 20,000 immigrants, in this case Haitian immigrants, have arrived in Springfield, Ohio. That's what, 40% or so of their already population being added to it. So you got 58,000 people that already live there. If there's 28,000 there, you got 78,000 people, 20 of which don't know the rules, don't or much about the city, come from a different culture, don't know how to drive, they don't know basic things, and yet here they are. So the question for you is, can that happen in Waxahachie?
Well, can it happen in Waxahachie? Just looking at that situation, the biggest question there that I haven't heard any information on is what is the percentage of those that is legal versus illegal? I've heard many people talking in support of the Haitian population, indicating that they've come there and they've gotten jobs and that they're good law-abiding citizens. The trouble isn't them, it's the large portion of non-Haitians. As to whether it could happen in Waxahachie, I heard news the other day that the that the Venezuelan mobs
Yes.
gangs are firmly encamped in 8 different cities
Yeah.
across America, including El Paso, which is a far larger city than here. And so that's, it comes back to that biggest issue of how did those people get here? They came across the border illegally, and now that they're in, there's fighting now going on between Venezuelan gangs
Hmm.
and U.S. street gangs
Yeah.
existing here, and
Right.
so gang on gang. Um, I don't know. Could it happen in Waxahachie? I don't know that it couldn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we live in Texas, which is to our advantage in that sense. We live in a city that is uh, proud of its heritage here. We have, I would say, we're a warrior kind of city. I mean,
Mhm.
evidenced by the fact that we haven't had other the things we see uh, damaging cities and communities throughout the country. We haven't had that here yet, largely because of what I was just saying, that we're warriors. We're not going to put up with that. You bring in, I don't care where they're from, but you bring in that many people here who start to disrupt this community. We're not going to sit back. I don't know what we'll do, but we're not going to sit back and take it. We have a governor who's most likely not going to let that happen. The the Haitians that are in Springfield, Ohio, I don't know if you know this, but the federal government, Biden and Harris, created a temporary law that allows them to be there, making them legal in a temporary kind of sense. They didn't go through all the steps. The
Unaware
crowd
of
that we're
that.
talking about. So, yeah, so they are what you might say legal. Those that would defend their right to be there or whatever uh, would say, well, they are legal,
Well,
but they're
when
legal.
did that happen?
It just happened recently. So
How
we'll
how,
look.
how is that not more well known?
Well, the media class didn't tell us about it, did they?
No.
So a law was created. It'd be no different than if for a small community in the world, a small segment of the world, a law was created. It's kind of happening with other things, transgender here and there. I mean, things are being ruled upon or executive order maybe created such that in this case those people aren't considered illegal. So we have we have games being played. It's destroying that city. I mean, Trump says cats and pets and dogs and all that, ducks, geese, whatever, being eaten. Uh, you know, maybe not. I don't know. But that isn't the point. The point is that a city like ours is being overrun by people who don't, they haven't assimilated. They're new. They are the number of auto accidents is skyrocketing. I mean, it just goes on and on. So we have a media here that's going to make sure that we know that any of that's kind of percolating, which it isn't right now for Waxahachie. But if it happened in Springfield, I mean, I didn't even know there was a Springfield, Ohio, until this came up. Uh, it can happen anywhere, in my
I
opinion.
think it will always happen in the softest places.
Yeah, it's soft. That's a very good point. All right, this is where we will go back to our for a couple minutes. We'll go back to our sponsors. We have not announced them yet. So when we have our hard launch in a couple of weeks, we will have them. And but again, you're not going to be inundated with commercials. There will be 6 minutes maybe in this whole show that will be dedicated to our sponsors. But they will be sponsors that we all should be proud of and that are the part of the fabric, the goodness of this community. And we look forward to sharing them with you. Now is time for my friend Jeff, who is a poet extraordinaire. Uh,
Wow.
so yeah, you like that?
I hope I can live up to that today.
We call this segment Rhyme Time. So it's about a few minutes long. Jeff will take it from here, and then we'll have some discussion.
And Sam, don't pull up that poem quite yet. You're ready to pull it up, though, right? The reason I selected this poem, and the poem is called Paper. And we would not be sitting here today if I had not written this poem. When I wrote this poem, I had already published my first book, 2020 Hindsights, which came out in the fall of 2020.
Right in the middle of COVID.
It was written, that book is full of political thoughts, and there's very few political thoughts in my other poems, but that was, when you write poetry, and I hadn't written poetry all my life, and I just started writing poetry, texting it people liked it. I kept writing more and more and more. I had enough to write a book. I decided I'd look into self-publishing, and I did. And it felt good. And in January of 21, my wife and I moved here to Waxahachie, and we love it here. In a big part of our daily life, we're 10 years dating as of next month, and we've been together in a home since 2015, and we've always gotten the newspaper home delivered. It's ingrained in our life. We get up, we get the newspaper, we read it together. She's reading a section, I'm reading a section. We're sharing different parts of it with each other. And so we got to Waxahachie, we found out there were 2 local newspapers. We went to mostly HEB and picked up both of them. We decided that this is the one that we liked the most. I went down one day to the Waxahachie paper, and I got a subscription, and I left there, and I drove up to HEB to get gas, and a poem just started breaking out in my head, and I pulled out a brown paper bag that I had there, and I started scribbling this poem, and it's called The Paper.
Lay it on us.
Lay it on us.
Yeah. And by the way, when you say you and your wife are in a home, you're not talking about like a mental place, right?
No, we're talking a nice house here in
the way you said it made
Waxahachie.
me wonder what the heck.
Okay. All right, Sam, you going to pull that up for the people to see? All right. The Paper, April 27th, 2021. Newspapers, some say, are a thing of the past. I, for one, pray that they last. Every morning for all my life, I read of global joys and strife. All the news that's fit to print, you learn about things of which you had not a hint. Remember, the internet version started as print. No logon is needed. Go outside, grab it, read it. Now I'll break from my rhyme for a very short time. Let me be abundantly clear of a concept I hold dear. George B. Dealey, yes, of Dealey Plaza fame, founded the Dallas Morning News in 1885. His founding principle was that the newspaper must acknowledge the right of the people to get from the newspaper both sides of every important question. And that is written on the side of their building, even now that they've moved out to publish in Plano. Yeah. Nowadays, your papers are all leaning to the far left or right. You can choose either fight. Same for the electronic media. Just consider the source, before believing, of course. I grew up in a family of newspaper readers. My wife, long a teacher, quips, readers are leaders. Today's a great day in my new Waxahachie life. I now get home delivery of the Sun to read with my wife.
Very good. Yeah, that's good.
And the key about why I selected this for our inaugural show wasn't just to say that we wouldn't be here, because that was the beginning of me not only having written and published a book, but being published in a paper. And I've had about 25 poems in the Waxahachie papers. And that's when I met Scott, and that's where we became friends.
Yeah.
And we would not be here if not for that. But the important part beyond that is the part about the media. And for George Ely to be saying that in 1885, I guess we had a problem with the media being biased back then.
Yeah.
And it's never quit. And it's at its worst of all time right now.
I would agree with that. There was a time when that bias, they would work hard to hide it. Now they don't care. And so the media, general media, the national media just doesn't care anymore, whether you think they're biased or whether they're not. In some ways, they care it as a badge of honor. You know, I'm a liberal and I'm writing, and if you don't like it, too bad. You know, despite my leanings politically, you can rest assured that there is not one story that I've ever touched in any newspaper that I've been responsible for on the news side. Never once, nor will I, for that reason, because I don't want people thinking that I had anything to do with, you know, some bias in a news story. That is sacred ground.
Amen.
So thank you. That's a very good poem. We'll be talking more about Jeff and his talents. It's a wonderful way of creating or getting a gift for someone. Jeff can write poems for people in your life, for pets, for whatever, and put them together for you such that you have a gift, particularly as we head into the holidays, a gift for someone that's unlike any other gift. So we'll be talking more about that. Rhyme Time will be in not every show, but in several of our shows, many of our shows, for that reason. So thank you for that. All right, now we're going to go to our final segment. Every week we have a lot of fun here with this. It shows how either smart we are or how dumb we are. This is called This Day in History. So take it from here, Jeff.
And this day in history is taken from the Morning Dallas Morning News. And every day I do this quiz with my wife. After we do the Today in History, we do today's birthdays. Actually, the paper has now dropped today's birthdays, so I have to pull that out of the internet to give it to her. But so Scott, Sam, you got the rules up there? I'm not seeing them.
We won't see them.
Okay. So basically, you can read. You know, you get one to get it right, one to get it wrong. You get two for a bonus if you hit it on the number. You can pass it any time without any penalty, and we go from oldest to newest. And this morning I went 8 and 2. Luckily, I had two bonuses, and Scott, we're hoping for good results out of you, and the guys like to contribute also. So we open with the Constitution of the United States was completed and signed by a majority of delegates attending the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia. The Constitution of the United